A very good afternoon to one and all. Today we are going to start with our second phase of GIST. Okay. So today the topic which we are going to discuss is about GIST spatial data models. Okay. And this is the concepts which we are going to see in today's class. And we are starting with the second unit and database structures, which are the basics of any database management system. And we are going to particularly see how database structure works upon in GIST and what are the types, which type of database structure is very, very important and very useful in this GIST format. And we are going to discuss about relational databases and object-oriented databases for today's class. So this is what we are going to see in today's class. And later through this webinar series, we will be seeing in upcoming classes what is a ER diagram, what are the different shapes and sizes of the ER diagram, what does each shape mention to us or what does it mean, everything we will be seeing in the upcoming classes. And the main two topics in this unit, which is also asked in previous year questions, university exams are, what is spatial data structure and what is raster data structure? Those were the questions which were very important in this chapter. So the first phase will be the introduction of database structures and ER diagram. Second phase will be spatial data structure. Third phase will be raster data structure, and the last segment will be TIN model and CLIP model. Okay, which we have seen what is TIN, triangulated irregular network, in the last unit. Okay, so we will be seeing in the in description that what is TIN and what are its various types. Everything will be seen in the upcoming webinar series. Okay, so this will be for today's class, and this is your question. This is your puzzle for today's class. I'll give you 30 seconds to check out this puzzle. Okay, so we will be going to the first slide. The topic is spatial database systems and their types. So we will be seeing is from the basic steps, we will be seeing everything. So this is what we are going to discuss in the first phase of today's class. So what a database actually is. Okay, so what it does and why database design is very, very important for a GIST model. Okay, then next one is how modern databases evolved from the previous older files and file systems. Okay, we know that GIST was actually the term invented in 1960s, but the operation or the works of GIST was initially started in 1830s itself. Similarly, even though database was evolved or database was invented in a much different time, before databases we were using some storage devices, right? So those storage devices are nothing but files and file systems. So we are, in those days we were saving the data or storing the data in the format of files and file systems. Okay. So what happens is, though it has some discrepancies, like it has some flaws and it was not user friendly at all. So that's why we have created a database in a much efficient and user friendly manner. Okay. So we will be seeing how database has been evolved from those file systems. Okay. And what are the defects of those file system and what is a DBMS, database management system, what it actually does. Okay, and what are the various types of database management systems. Okay, this is what we are going to see. So introduction to database. Actually, before going into the database, obviously we have to see what is the data, what is the information, and how information is being transformed to knowledge and how those knowledge is being represented in a database format. Okay. So data is nothing but raw data, raw facts. So processed data is called as information, and that information, when it is combined with GIST or any database format, it converts into knowledge. Correct. So this is what we have seen in the previous webinar session. Okay. So now, so it is an information produced by processing data. Okay. Processing data is nothing but information. Okay. So information reveals meaning of data. Okay. So whatever data is consisting of, it is a raw fact. So when we are processing those facts only, we will be getting those information. So when we are analyzing those information or through a GIS analysis, then we will be getting a pure knowledge. Okay. So without data, computers would be pretty useless because data is everything, and wherever data which we have collected from various resources, it is being clubbed together, analyzed properly, okay, refined properly, and then the perfect data is being given to the particular user or the end users who ask the query. This is the process happening in your GIS, correct? So in this unit, we will be seeing about the various database management systems available, in particularly how the data is being how an image is being converted into a database, or how an image is being saved in a format of database, okay, how the data is being replicated, everything we are going to see in today's class, okay. So in database management system, okay, actually the database is being shared, integrated, and integrated computer structure housing. Like for example, end users and metadata. End users are the users who are asking the queries of I need particular data like this, I need particular data like this. Metadata are nothing but data which is data about the data. So from where the data is being collected, the resource of the data. Okay, so that is metadata. So these end user and metadata, I have shown it in a diagrammatic representation in the upcoming slide. We will see that later. And this is what DBMS actually consists of. Okay. And the main key point of DBMS, okay, it is more efficient and more effective. So when we are telling the term efficient and effective, with which component we are comparing, so that we will come to a conclusion that this DBMS is efficient or effective. So we are comparing this DBMS with the previous file format structured version. So when we are comparing this DBMS with the file format version, it is more efficient, it is more effective because it is more user friendly. The data are very reliable, the data are consistent, the data are clear, and the data is efficient. The query language gives us a very good interaction between the user and the DBMS software. Okay. So what happens is query language is nothing but a process of asking a particular question to the system in its query language in its own manner. Okay. So if we want a particular data, like for example, the total number of students available in RMK Engineering College who has obtained any rank in Anna University. Okay. So this is the query. It can be given to the DBMS. So what the DBMS will be doing is it will be analyzing all the fields and structures, all the data available, and then it will come to a conclusion that so these many students are obtained ranks in university. It will give the final the final result on output for us. Okay, this is the data given to us by a DBMS system. Okay, so that's why it is more efficient and effective. Okay, and multiple kind of data is being integrated together in this DBMS. That is one main advantage of DBMS. So not only a particular data is being organized in a specific manner, but also the similar data are being combined together. Okay, this in terms comes with the terms of foreign key and primary key. Okay, I will tell you what is a primary key and foreign key in the upcoming slide. Okay, so now one more thing is it reduces the probability of inconsistent data. So what is inconsistent data is, so one unique ID given to a particular record. Okay, so that is consistent data. Okay, inconsistent in the sense the data will be repeated, repetition of data will be there, data redundancy will be there. So these kinds of things can be avoided in a particular DBMS format. Okay, so database structure. Actually, database is a collection of rows and columns, right? So if we are converting it into a coding structure or coding language, it can be given as a two-dimensional array format, where one array gives us the rows and one array gives for the columns. So a combination of both rows and columns will be giving us a proper data structure. Okay, so database structure is nothing but a two-dimensional array format. Is it clear? Okay. And how this is being manipulated or how this is being organized, this is particular index. It has a specific index. Like in this case, we can take it as a primary. Okay. So this is what a database actually interacts like. So they not only one type of end users, there are several end users who can work at a similar time in a particular DBMS. Okay. So this diagram shows us that two end users are giving some application request. Okay, so the data is being provided by the system. Okay, the application request is being given by the end user, so that combines with the database management system. The database structure has the components of metadata, which is the sources of the data or the data upon the data, and then it consists of several clusters of data, like data which are related to the customers, data which are related to the products, and when compared together, the data which is related to the invoices. Okay, so these data are withheld in this database structure. So based upon the application requested by the end user, it manipulates the data with the DBMS format and then provides the output resultant data which is necessary for the user. So this is what a DBMS actually works. Okay, this is how it interacts. UI format, user interaction format. Okay, so anybody can design a database, but what are the qualities which has to be given for a perfect good design? Perfectly designed database. Okay, so a good design should have these qualities. Okay, the first one is data redundancy should not be there. Okay, so data redundancy is just multiple data, repetition of data. Okay, so these are called as data redundancies. So every data has its own uniqueness. So those data uniqueness has to be shown upon. So a poor design actually design should have no data redundancy. This is a
poor design generates error leading to bad decisions. Okay. Yeah. Poor design generates error leading to bad decision. Bad decision in the sense the result and output should be proper. Okay. So like for example, just now we discussed an example that the total number of rank holders in online university results, right? So if the design is not proper, some students who have not yet received any ranks from the online university, they may also have been included in this list. Okay, so that may be a problem. Okay, so next one is the practical approach. The practical approach, we will be seeing it with an example itself. So in databases, okay, so the rows and columns which we have seen so far, a particular column is called as a record. A complete column which has a complete information about a particular entity is said to be known as a record. Okay, a record is also called as an object or an entity. Okay, so whereas a field is a particular column which has only one unique attribute. Okay, like for example, the register number of a student is a field, complete field. Okay, and this is an example of what is a field and what is a record. So one particular field is one complete column, and one particular row is called as a record of a particular entity or a particular person. Okay. So now we are going to see the historical roots of a database, that is the file system. Okay, how initially before the database management system, how a file is being organized or how the data are stored in a file system, that we will be seeing right now. Okay, so in those days the data were not properly aligned. So whatever data we have received, those were particularly organized in a file format. Okay, particularly stored in a file format. Okay. So normally data are nothing but raw facts. Field is nothing but a group of characters with specific meaning. In those days, file systems, field is nothing but a group of characters with specific meaning. Whereas in DBMS, field is nothing but a particular column which has the explanation of all the entities data according to a particular attribute. Okay, and then the next one, in record. Record is nothing but logically connected fields that describe either a person, a place, or any objects available in the spatial data. Okay, so this is called as a record. But in DBMS, a record is nothing but a combined attribute data of a single particular entity is called as a record. Or in other terms, a single column is called as a single record. Okay. So the here in file system, file is nothing but a collection of related records together. All the records which are related together are combined to as created as a file. So that is, these are the terminologies available in a file, okay, or a file system. So this is how a file system actually works upon. So there may be file management programs and file report programs. So these segments are available for every individual task. Like for example, personal department consists of a file management program and a file report program separately. Okay, whereas a sales department has the customer file as well as sales file separately. The problem upon this case is that both the files, sales department and personal department has the access of the data separately but not combined together. So that will be a huge disadvantage or a huge problem. So whereas in a DBMS format, you can see the diagram. So whereas the second diagram shows us the file system and the first diagram shows us the database system. Here you can see that a personal department, sales department, and accounting department, everything is being connected to an individual, particular DBMS. Okay, all the personal department, sales department, accounting department, everything is being connected to a common DBMS. Whereas in the file system, personal department has the access to the employees, and accounting department has the access to the account database, and as well as the sales department will be having the access to the customer, sales, and inventory only. Okay, whereas in the first system, the database management system, all the end users is being combined to a single DBMS, and that DBMS is being having the access to all the data which is available: database, employee, customer, sales, inventory, accounts, everything combined together. So what is the advantage in this one is we are not dependable upon other components. So if a data is being required, that analysis is being obtained with utmost care and with the help of all the resources available. Okay. So that is what the difference between a file system and a database system. Okay. So database obviously consists of the logically related data stored together. It is given in a single repository. Okay. And what is the advantage of database system is that it stores the data structures, relationship, and also the access path. Okay. So access path is also termed as metadata, in which what kind of resources or what kind of sources we have obtained that data. Okay. Whether it is reliable or unreliable. Okay. And data discrepancy and the data discrepancy is being avoided, data redundancy is avoided, it eliminates inconsistency, and any repetition of data can be easily identified. So those kinds of several advantages are available in this database system. Okay. So everybody has gone through what I have said so far in the DBMS subject itself, but no problem. We will have a revision also, not an issue. So this is a database system environment actually, where you can see the scope, you can see the mouse pointer, and this is actually the DBMS process. Okay, where the hardware is not connected to everything, because based upon the hardware only the entire system is been working upon. So based upon the hardware, we are installing the DBMS software, and DBMS software consists of the data as the component. Okay, and who are all accessing the data? Either it is the end users or it is the programmers. Okay, so it is either the programmers or the end users who are accessing the DBMS actually. Okay, and whereas the system, what it interacts with the user. Okay, so what are the people who are interacting with the DBMSs? Database designer, database administrator, and system administrator. Okay, so these many objects are available in a particular database system environment actually. Okay, and these are the various functions which are available in DBMS. Actually, there are a number of functions, but these are properly listed, the DBMS function, which can be asked for 2-mark question also in your upcoming exams. Okay. So nothing but the first one is data dictionary management. So that it manages a n number of data dictionaries and metadata also. And data storage management is it stores the data in such a way that there should not be any repetition of data, and there should not be any overlap of storage memory spaces available. So the data storage management is very clear and transparent that the spaces of data are easily maintained by the end users. Okay, and the data transformation and presentation, it depends upon the one date when the one table of data is being combined to another table of data. That is what we are calling as data transformation. Okay, and presentation is that when a query language is being asked, how the data is being presented in such a way that it gives the exact output which is being expected by the end user. Okay, security management is there should not be any data loss. So that is what the ultimate security management is taking care of. Okay, and multi-user access control, like we have seen in the previous diagram, there are several users working in a common database at a common time. So that is what called as multi-user. Multiple users working on a DBMS at the same time. So multi-user access control in the sense multiple user has the access to control the DBMS. Okay. And the next one is backup and recovery management. So you can oftenly take backups of those stored data, and you can also, if any data loss is there, you can easily recover those data from the previous stored backups. Okay, that is what backup and recovery management is all. So mostly, if there is any power shortage or any while working in DBMS, any there is error or any input functions problem, then the data may have been lost. So in order to recover those data, we can use the previous backups as entities. Okay, and then data integrity management is the sustainability and the uniqueness of the data is being maintained properly. Okay, and database language and application programming interfaces. Based upon any query language, the data can be retrieved easily. So these are the various DBMS functions available. So with this, we have completed the first segment of the second phase of your GIST webinars. Okay. So after seeing this image, students, you can type your answers in the chat box. Good. Excellent answers. So I think this is a very, very easy question. Everybody has responded instantly. Yeah, I can see some fives also over here now. 6. Sai Supreet, Manasa, Ajit Kumar, Meherunisa, Lilavati, Anjali, Kirti, Deepti, Srideepa, Soumya, Bhuvi, Shanmugapriya, Ritika, Aishwarya, Shivashankar, Hariharan. Good participation. Natarajan, Uma Devi, good. Any other answers? Or anybody yet to give their answers? Even though if I got the answers, no problem, you can reply. Okay, so we have some random answers. Both we are having two options. So let's see which is coming first. Okay, Sai Tarun, Sandhya Rani, Samyukta, Samyukta. Okay, good participation, guys. Aditya, Harsha, good. And with all due respect, even the staffs can participate in these kinds of puzzles, no problem. Okay. Anybody yet to answer? Can we move on to the solution? If anybody has the answers, either it's the same answer or different answer, no problem. You can type in your answers. Okay. So Bharat Verma, good. Okay, so then we will move on to the solution part, and the solution is bottle number 5 is the correct answer. So obviously, in one webinar, I have told that they will be diverting us to a wrong answer. So please don't get diverted. The bottle number 5 fills up first because only 3 taps are being opened first of all. Okay, so only bottle number 1, bottle number 3, and bottle number 5 has the opening. Okay, so bottle number 2 is closed, so the entire left path is closed, and bottle number 7 is also closed. So the only bottles which are open are 1, 3, and 5. So obviously, bottle number 5 fills up first. Congratulations to the participant and those who have given the correct answer. Excellent concentration you guys are having. Keep it up. Now we are going to the next phase of today's webinar session. So today there is another puzzle. So be ready. This is the second puzzle for you guys. You have to count the total number of triangles. Okay, so now we are moving into the database interior concept actually. And now, before going into that relational database, okay, here in GIS actually, so far we have been discussing about what is database only. In this unit, particularly, mostly we will be seeing about database management systems only. So in every concept, we have to keep in mind that this database management system is actually combined with GIS. Okay, so what does this database management system actually work upon in this uh, database management? What does this database management system work upon GIS operating code? Okay, so that is what we have to actually look upon. And here is just everything in GIS has to go inside a database only. Okay, so by the help of a database only, we're getting a data or getting a proper output. Okay, so database used in GIS is mostly spatial database only. Okay, I repeat, databases used in GIS is mostly spatial database only. Okay, so often used DBMS means it is relational database management system only. Okay, even though we are using other available DBMS in the GIS, the most commonly used DBMS is relational database management system, which is RDBMS. Okay, but RDBMS cannot work upon any images, so it doesn't work upon images at all. So only when an image is being converted into a database. Okay, so when an image is being converted into a database, we are using the relational database management system to retrieve our proper data. Okay, and okay, this is how a database actually looks like. Okay, the relational database model has a combination of rows and columns, which consists of every row as a record and every column as an attribute. For example, if a particular column, settlement name or settlement status or settlement population, it is an attribute. Okay, so that is a field actually. So fields are nothing but attributes, and which is particularly given upon as a column in a database. Okay, so that field or that column has the complete data about that particular attribute alone. So what is the attribute? Settlement population is that attribute. So it has the all the data available to those particular field alone. That is called as a field. Okay, whereas a record means Bogdan is a town. Okay, it has a population of 31,520. Okay, and its country name is Downshire. So these are the complete attribute data available in a single record of Bogdan. This is called as a record. Okay, whereas settlement population is the field. Okay, so in structured database model, we will be seeing what is a relational database model, a database management system. So in that we will be seeing what are the primary keys, what are the foreign keys, and what are the various joins available. Everything we will discuss. Okay, and everybody please take a close look at this one. So this image gives us how a DBMS actually works upon a GIS tool. Okay, so there are 3 components available in this GIS tool, in this image. The first one is a map. Okay, so the map is being divided into 4 components. Okay, 11, 12, and 13, 14. Okay, So each component is being identified with this unique number. Okay, or we can say it as a map ID. Okay, so based upon this map ID, we can give the attributes of this particular cell alone. Okay, so now see the first table, attribute table 1. Okay, attribute table 1, what it has is, it has the map ID 11. This 11 is combining to this 11. Okay, whereas this 14 is being combining to this area 14, which is mapped in the, I mean, marked in the map. Okay, so what are the attributes which are attribute details which are given for this 14 alone? The area 45 square kilometers. Okay, so that is one attribute. And then perimeter, the perimeter length alone. What is the length? So it is 65 kilometers wide. Okay, and stand number. So stand number here J127 is the stand number. So here it actually gives us an explanation of what is a primary key and what is a foreign key. Okay, so let me tell you clearly. Primary key belongs to a particular table. What happens is that that primary key is very unique. Okay, the primary key should be very unique. There should not be any repetition of those keys. Okay, and the primary key should never be null. Okay, primary key should not be null. But a foreign key can be either null, but a foreign key should be a primary key in another table. Like for example, your map ID is very unique. Okay, so no two area will be having the same map ID. Okay, so this is the primary key for this attribute table 1. Is that clear? And similarly, in the attribute table 2, stand number. So we are having the stand number as 127, 28, 29, etc. etc. So here we are assuming that this stand number is also unique and cannot be repeated. Okay, so whereas the dominant species or the age, it can be repeated, and this stand number cannot be repeated. So this stand number is taken as a primary key of attribute table 2. Okay, primary key of attribute table 2. So this primary key is being taken as a foreign key in the attribute table 1. So in attribute table 1, the primary key which is coming from another table or another foreign table, that is called as a foreign key. Okay, so can you understand? So a foreign key should be a primary key in another table, whereas primary key is the unique key available or unique attribute available in that particular table. Okay, this is how GIS and DBMS combines together to collect the data in an efficient manner. Is that clear? Okay, and this is relational operators. Okay, so in relational DBMS process, what are the various operations we can do? Okay, actually, in relational database operation, what is the main purpose is that the multiple data table or the multiple data available in table or in multiple tables can be combined together. Okay, so we can derive a proper conclusion based upon the conclusion or based upon the resultant data of two different tables. Okay, so that is the main advantage of relational database management system. Okay, so we can, what are the various options we can do is we can select a particular record by giving a condition also. So we can either print all the records which are available in the table, that is one, and we can select a particular data with a particular constraint, and then we can even project a data which has a particular constraint, but also another constraint. So we can project a data with a multiple number of constraints together. Okay, is that clear? That is what relational operation takes care of. Okay, so here what we can do is we can select a data, we can project a data, we can combine a data. Okay, the combining a data is called as join function. Okay, combining multiple tables together. We will see that example also. And we can divide the data, we can print a particular record alone, or we can print a particular field alone. Okay, the data, if any data is being lost, the main thing is we can retrieve those lost data, which is very, very useful in particular cases. So if due to any power loss or any manufacturing process, if there is a data effect, I mean the data loss, that data can be retrieved from the previous backups which have taken. So that is data retrieval process also. One of the important processes available in this relational DBMS system. So here are the examples. So we are using query language, structured query language, which is also termed as SQL. So in the SQL, the commands mostly we are using is select, and from. Okay, the select is nothing but the record which has to be selected, and from indicates from which table we have to select the data. Okay, so here is an example. Select settlement name, comma country name from settlement. So here settlement is the name of the table, and settlement name and country names are the field or the attribute or the columns available in the settlement table. Okay, so this is your example. So what we are asking is the query given to us is settlement name and country name. So here the settlement name Gittings, Bopton, Puffins, and the country name Downshire, uh, Merryshire, those data, these first column and last column will alone be printed if you are asking this query. Okay, so that is the power of structured query language. Okay, this is another example where we are going to select the data with a particular constraint. What is a constraint? It is a rule or it is a condition, like if clause, if condition in programming language. Okay, here the example is a select from settlement. So your first operation is you are selecting what from where. So you are selecting the data from the table name settlement. Okay, now what is a constraint? Where the country name is equal to Merryshire and settlement population is greater than 20,000. So here we are having multiple constraints, not only one constraint, but we are having multiple constraints. Okay. So what is the first constraint? The country name should be Merryshire. Okay. So how many countries are there with the name of Merryshire? So you can see that Pondside has the country name Merryshire and Drain has the country name Merryshire. Okay. So there are two data with this constraint available. We can ignore the remaining one. Okay. And now going for the second constraint. The settlement population should be greater than 20,000. Okay, settlement population should be greater than 20,000. So, based upon this condition, we will be checking upon Pondside. Pondside is having more than 20,000. Actually, it is having 1,12,510 settlement population, whereas Drain has only 940. So, based upon the query, we will be giving the output as Pondside, which is having the output as 1,12,510. Okay, so the Pondside and Merryshire will be printed. Okay, based upon whatever we want to select. If you want to select settlement name and country name, means those two will be printed based upon this constraint. Okay, is that clear? So this is how a DBMS query language actually works upon. Okay, this is your relational databases or database operators where you will be using select from where. Okay, most commonly you'll be using these things. Okay. And now moving on to the components of your relational database management system. The first one is your primary key and your foreign key. So what is a primary key and what is a foreign key? So we will have some examples also. Okay, a primary key should be always unique and should not be null. So that is the condition we have seen so far. Okay, and whereas a foreign key, it can be null, but should be a primary key in another table. Okay, it should be the primary key in the another table. Okay, like for example, I will give you an example. Okay, one is let's assume a department table. Another one is student table. Okay, so should I just answer this question? We are having two tables. One is department table and one is student table. So which will be the parent table initially? You can reply in the chat box. So one is department table and another one is student table. So which will be your parent table and which will be your child table? Can anyone reply in the chat box? Excellent. Uma Devi, Leelavati, Ishika, super. Yeah. So the department table is your parent table. Very good. Because without the department, there are no students, right? So we are assuming the department table as a parent table and the student table as child table. Very good. Okay. Now, the department table, what are the attributes that a department table can have? Or what are the fields that a department table can have? It can have first initially the department name. Okay, and a department ID can be there. Okay, and the total number of students available in that department, so that can be given as field. Okay, so there are n number of attributes available in a department table. So here, for example, we will take it as department ID and department name alone. So in a parent table, department table, we are having two attributes. Two fields. One is department ID and department name. Okay. So here we will have the department ID as the primary. Okay. So here we will be having as the department ID as the primary. Okay. And this is your parent table. Now we are going for the student table. In student table, what are the various attributes available or various fields available? So one can be student ID, or one can be student name, student gender, okay, student's department, and also department ID. Okay. So based upon this, we can get the data from a student, right? So here in the student table, let's assume that we are having the student ID as the primary key. Okay. They are having the student's ID as the primary key. Okay. And then we are also having another foreign key in this table. So listen carefully. Initially, we are having two tables. One is department table and another one is student table. Okay. So in department table, we are having two fields. One is department ID and department name. So department ID, we will take it as a primary key. Okay. So here in parent table, our primary key is department ID. Okay. So we are going to take that primary key of department table and going to add it in the student table or the child table. Okay. So when this primary key moves on to the another table, then it will become the foreign key of student table. Okay. So the primary key of the department table is department ID, whereas the same department ID acts as a foreign key in the student table. Is that clear? So in student table, we will be having student ID, student name, student gender, student department, and student ID. So here student ID will be the foreign key where it is actually a primary key in another table. Okay, whereas the primary key of student table is student ID. Is that clear? Can you understand the difference between a primary key and a foreign key? Yes. So it's very simple only. No need to get confused at all. Okay. This is what, and actually this is what a primary key and a foreign key is. But the main thing is, why are we using a foreign key in another table? So why are we taking a data from another table and posting it in this data? The main thing is, the foreign key establishes the relation between two tables. Okay, the foreign key establishes the relation. It means that the foreign key has the relations between both the tables, the student table as well as the department table. So foreign key department ID establishes a relation between both the tables. So that is the effect of the foreign key. Okay, is that clear? So what is a foreign key and what is a primary key? Hope you guys understood that. Yes. Okay. Okay. So the next topic which we are going to see is called as relational joins. Okay. So joins are nothing but combining of several tables together. Okay. So please take a note. Which I'm going to say. Actually, join is consists of two types. Okay. One is called as inner join and another one is called as outer join. Hope you guys could have seen this in DBMS classes also. So one is your inner join, another one is your outer join. So what these joins do is, inner join actually collects the records of all common data together. Okay, all common data in the sense, if you are combining the table 1 and table 2, it will combine all the common data alone and print it as an output. Okay, that is what an inner join does. But what an outer join does is, it shows all the common joins as well as the uncommon joins also. I mean, it shows both the common records available and both the uncommon records available. Okay, that is being given by the outer join. Okay, so what is a join? Join actually combines two tables and it looks for repetition of records. So there are two types in joins actually. One is inner join and one is outer join. So inner join means it collects the record which are common, and outer join collects both the record which is common as well as uncommon. Okay. And in the next layer, outer join is also segregated into two components. Okay, so far join is being divided into inner join and outer join. And then the next level of segregation is that the outer join is being divided into left outer join and right outer join. Okay, left outer join and right outer join. It is very simple. So left outer join, what it does is it first combines the common data from both the records or both the tables, and then it print the uncommon record only available in the left table alone. Is that clear? It gives the okay. One is left outer join and another one is right outer join. So in left outer join, it gives the common data and uncommon data. Common data means common to both the records, I mean both the tables. Uncommon data means it gives the uncommon data available only in the left table. So that is left outer join. Whereas right outer join is it obviously gives the common data which is available in both the table, and then it gives the uncommon records of the right table alone. Okay, so here we will take it into consideration as the department table as left, okay, and then the student table as right, okay, parent table as left and child table as right, okay. So here left outer join, what it does is it gives the common data first. Common data is nothing but department ID. So department ID will be printed, and then if we are selecting left outer join means it will give us the data of all the parent table which is not common. Okay, so it will also add the department name. That is the only output available, okay, which is not common. So if you are using left outer join, it will print the common data as department ID and the uncommon data of the left table alone, which is department name. Okay, and then whereas in right outer join, what will be done is we will be selecting the common data, obviously the department ID, and then the uncommon data which is available in the right table alone, which are the student ID, the student name, the student gender, and student department. Those are the data which is uncommon and which is available only in the right side. Okay, so that is your various types of joins. The join is divided into inner and outer join is also subdivided into left outer join and right outer join. Okay, hope you guys now are clarified with that. Now we will see an example of how a join actually works. Okay, so this is an example to join two different entries. Okay, in two different tables. Okay, so the first table, let's assume it is a parent table or a child table, not issue. So in first table, we are having a name, designation, and an employee code. Okay, here employee code has been taken as a primary. Okay, and here in the second table, we are having a columns of name, salary, and experience. So both the name has the concept of marking. Okay, so if these two names are unique, then we can join both the attributes. Okay, that is what they have given over here. If you want the particular data, like for example, if you want the designation and employee code alone means, you can use left outer join. Or if you want the salary details or the experience details means, you can use right outer join. Okay, so these are the examples how a join actually works. Okay, so hope it's clear now. And moving on to the normal form. Okay, so normal form actually will be asked as mostly as a 2-mark question in your this actually. We are not going in depth for any normalization forms at all. But just to revise a few concepts, I will just tell you what is a normal form and what are the various types of normal forms available. Okay, actually the main concept of normal form is to minimize the redundancy. Okay, it reduces the data redundancy to a particular amount of SSP, and there are various types of normal forms available. Okay, the first one is the initial normal form is UNF. UNF is nothing but unnormalized form. Okay, unnormalized form was the first one, UNF, and then after that, several normalization techniques were being discovered, like 1NF, 2NF, 3NF. Then after that, BCNF was there, and then 4NF, 5NF, 6NF. Apart from this, there are several normalization forms also. BKNF, EJNF, several normalization forms like that. But the main attribute or the main contribution of normal form in a database management system is that it should reduce the data redundancy. That's all. Okay. So you can use various normalization technique, which is comfortable for us. That is not an issue. Okay. Then moving on to the advantages and disadvantages of a DBMS system or a relational database management system. Okay. So I will have a conclusion like this. Yeah. Okay. So the advantages are nothing but structural independence. Okay. It doesn't mean that it has to be in this structure, in this structure. There is no particular structure at all. Everything is being in the format of rows and columns. So everything is in two-dimensional arrays only. So we don't have an issue of any structure problem, or when we are changing it to another system, that structure will be easily adapted to the DBMS also. So structural independency is there. That is not at all a problem. So that is one advantage. Okay. And then improved conceptual simplicity. Okay. So the data which we are retrieving through an SQL query is very simple and very direct. Okay. So it doesn't mean that whatever answer we are asking, it should be given in a descriptive manner. Nothing like that. So if we want a particular field, only that field will be printed. If we want a particular query data, only that data will be simple enough to be displayed. That is the most powerful thing of this relational database management system. Okay. And obviously it is a easier database design. It is easy to implement, it is easy to manage, and it is easy to use. Okay. So use in the sense that it is very user friendly. Okay. Ad hoc query capability with SQL. Ad hoc query in the sense the various types of queries which will be asked with constraints and without constraint can be easily manipulated using a SQL query language. Okay. So whatever data we want, if we give a proper query, then the data will be processed easily. Okay. So if we don't give a proper query, then the data cannot be retrieved at all. Okay. And it is a very powerful database management tool, and relational database management system is the best working example of a GIS database tool. Okay. And like we discussed, spatial database is a technique which is being followed in GIS, and relational database management system is the best efficient tool which can manipulate or analyze the data which is being converted from images. Okay. I repeat, relational database management system cannot work upon images. So the data which is being converted from images is being processed using a RDBMS form. Okay. And whereas it has some advantages, it has some disadvantages also. Disadvantages is mainly through the coding part. Okay. So like example, these are the disadvantages of RDBMS format, which is in short I'll tell you. These are the various disadvantages which is available in RDBMS format. One is sustainable hardware and system software overhead, okay, which is proper necessity of the hardware and system software is being needed. Okay, hardware as well as system software is very essential in order to get an efficient output using those database data, or the data is available in those databases. Okay, and then poor design and implementation is being made easily. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are going to prepare a design which is so poor, but a design which is very simple is said to be known as a poor design. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are designing it poorly. A very simple design which doesn't give an elaborative answer of the query, it is said to be known as a poor design. Okay, so when that design is poor or said to be poor, then obviously that implementation is made easy. Okay, so that is taken as one disadvantage, and may promote island of information problem. Island of information in the sense, island is nothing but it is not connected to any other land particles, right? It doesn't connect it to any other land, so it is being surrounded by waters only. So similarly, a table which is not connected to any other table is called as island of information. Okay, and table which is not being connected to any other tables or which is not related to any other table, that is called as island of information. Here in this state, if you are not manipulating it properly, then island of information is possible. That is what they are trying to say. Okay. So those kinds of, if you are leaving one or two tables behind, then it will create a problem as island of information problems. Okay, this is one thing given by the disadvantages of RDBMS. Okay. Okay. So the next concept is object-oriented database. We have almost get to the end of this session itself. So we are just going with the basics of these things. In, if possible, we will go for the next one, VR diagram also in this topic. So this is object-oriented databases. Okay. So apart from relational databases, we are going for object-oriented databases. Okay. So in order to give you a proper explanation about object-oriented database, we can actually, I hope you guys are going through the subject called as object oriented analysis and design, OOAD. Okay, so that part is taken over here in this OOAD. Under OOAD, you will be having several UML diagrams also, right? You will be working upon UML diagrams. Okay, you can anyone type the answer of how many categories are there in UML diagram? Can you type the answers in the chat box, please? In OOAD, in an UML diagram, how many categories are there? How many categories of UML diagrams are available? Can anyone type the answer in the chat box? How many categories of UML diagrams you know in OOAD? Sequential diagram, class diagram, various sequences are there, right? Various categories. So how many categories are there in UML diagrams? Leelavati, Uma, Devi. Okay, good, 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 good. Excellent. Okay. The answer given by you guys is 9. Very good. Really appreciate it. The 9 categories are the most common categories which we are using in OOAD concept. But actually, there are 12 categories available. Okay. There are 12 categories available in a UML diagram, in particular in the object-oriented analysis design subject. Okay. So 9 is the most commonly used terms which we are using in real time, but actually there are 12 categories. And in that category, which we are particularly going to see is class diagram. That's all. We are going to focus on only that class diagram. Okay. So in relational database management system, the data have been represented in tables and columns, right? So here in class diagram, the data are given in class diagram format. Okay. So this class diagram is being divided into 3 components. The first one is the name of the class. Second one is the total number of attributes which is being used by the class. Okay. And third one is the operation method. Okay, I will tell you an example also. So class name, in the sense we will assign it as student name. Okay. Student name as your class name. Okay. Or student table. Let's have the student table as class name. Okay. Then the attributes, we can have the attributes as like marks of subject 1, marks of subject 2, marks of subject 3, etc. etc. So we will have the marks of several subjects together. Okay. And then the operation method in the sense the functions which are being manipulated with those attributes. Like for example, total can be an operation method, or average can be an operation method, those kinds of things. Okay. So here table name, attribute and operation methods are the syntax of a class diagram, and student table M1, M2, M3 and total average is the example of a class diagram. Okay. So these are the examples of UML diagram. And what is the main advantages of this object-oriented programming? I mean, object-oriented database. That when compared to relational database, there is one very, very important concept available in object-oriented design or object-oriented database management system. The thing is, the code can be easily developed using a class diagram. Okay, while in comparing in relational database management system based upon a query or based upon an output, we couldn't. It is little bit tough for us to develop it as a program. Okay. Whereas from a class diagram, we can easily convert it into a code. And one more advantage is that when we are converting this class diagram into a code, or when we are converting this object-oriented database management system into a code, okay, already half code is inbuilt. Okay, like for example, the output structure, the name of the class, attribute, operations, everything is been given in the class diagram itself, right? So it has been given in the proper location so that it is easy for us to fill the remaining codes around. So almost half code is being inbuilt based upon this outline structure itself. So that is one huge advantage for us when we are comparing object-oriented database management system with the relational database management system. Okay, and yeah, so this is the object-oriented database management system. Okay, hope you guys are clear with this concept. And this data model is another method of representing real-world objects also. Okay, it considers each object in the world as an object and isolates it from each other. Okay, it groups its related functionalities together and allows inheriting its functionality to other related subgroups also. Okay, can you understand? I'll repeat that. It actually what it does it groups all their related functionalities. Okay, it groups their related functionalities together, and it also allows to inherit. Inherit means using one's attributes with another substituting program or substituting class. Okay, it allows inheriting its functionality to other related subgroups also. Okay, so this is one common thing in object-oriented databases, and also it has some elements of in this data model. So elements of object-oriented data model in the sense objects, attributes or methods, classes, inheritance. So these are the various elements available in this object-oriented data model. Is that clear? So for example, if we are taking into consideration as a group of classes, okay, so let's assume one class is having the name as person and employee. Okay, so here it means that person is one class and the employee is another class. Okay, so what are the various data available in that class? Okay, like for example, there is the structure of class. Yeah, here is the structure of class, right? So in inheritance, if we are combining two classes such as person and employee, what will be the things listed? The first one, class name. So both the classes names will be, one will be person and the another one will be employee. So the first class name will be person and second class name will be employee. Okay, and then what are the various attributes which will be available in the person? Like for example, the attributes available for a person class will be his name, person's name, address, age, and phone number. Correct. And then what are the various attributes available for an employee? Person, employee ID, employee type, what kind of employee he is, and what department he is working in. Department ID. So person, employee ID, employee type, and department ID will be the various attributes available in an employee class. Okay. And finally, for operation methods. In operation methods, what are the various operations which is possible for a person classes to get the address and to get the phone number? Okay, that can be given as a function. Whereas in employee table, their department details can be given as a operation, which is in the operation method table. Okay, these are the example where we can combine two classes. So these are the by default class data. So for example, if we are giving data. Okay, so the data where a person can be also an employee. Okay, so let's assume we are giving a data as John. Okay, and his address is Tamil Nadu. Okay, and his age is 25 and his number is 2453 something like that. Okay, so if we are running the first function get address, then we will be getting the address as Tamil Nadu. Okay, and if we are getting the second function as get phone number, then he will be getting the 2456 number. If the same data has been processed for the employee, then what will be the person's name? Person's name will be John only. But the details will be transferred as employee ID, employee type, and department ID. Okay, so the employee ID will be something around 12345 or 12121, and employee type will be engineer, and the department ID will be something around 101, 201, or 104, something like that. Okay. And if you want to run that operation in that employee class, okay, so it is get department detail function, right? So if you're getting the detail for John Means, then the detail which will be introduced is manufacturing. Okay, so that will be your output. Okay, so these are the content about object-oriented database concepts. Okay, so far is it clear? Yes, and these object-oriented uh, database actually has some advantages and disadvantages also. Okay, I just tell you guys that. And based actually how sorry, as how we are implementing inheritance in this topic. Okay, how we are implementing inheritance in class diagram. So inheritance property gives this OODBMS a very big advantage. Okay, so because of its inheritance property, we have a reuse. We can reuse the attributes and functionalities also. It reduces the cost of maintaining the same data multiple times, and also these informations are encapsulated. Encapsulated means combined together. Okay, data in a capsule combined together, and there is no fear being misused by other objects. So it does uh, rather than saying by misused by other objects, it doesn't give access to the other objects. Okay, as the data are clubbed together in a class format. Okay, so if we need any new feature, we can easily add this new feature like either operation methods or in attribute data. Okay, and as inheritance is possible, new adding a new class, inheriting from the parent class, and adding new feature is also very easy. So these are the advantages of an object-oriented database. Okay, and it is more flexible when compared to relational database management system. And like I said, codes are easily used and reused also because of inheritance. Inheritance is a major advantage of object-oriented database actually. Okay, but there is one more disadvantage of object-oriented databases actually. That is because it is not widely developed and complete to use it in a database system. Okay, it is not widely developed and it is not complete to use it in the database system. So that's why we are in the beginning of the session. I told that relational database management system is the best option for a this tool. Okay, that's why it has not been a. That's why object-oriented databases have not been accepted by the users in well manner. Okay, and the last disadvantage is that it is an approach for solving the requirement. Actually, it is not a technology. Okay, hence it fails to put it in the database management system. That's why it is a good technique, but it doesn't work in the DBMS form. Okay, so with this, we'll be winding up the session for now. If you don't have any queries, we will be moving on to the next topic, ER model also. So we will have some 10 minutes for question and answer session. If you have any questions, okay, already I got a question. Good. What is the purpose of including OOAD concept in GIS? Actually, we are not including the OOAD concept. We are implementing the class diagram concept alone. The main advantage is that in order to develop a program only. So like for example, if you are in a relational database management system, it is very hard to develop a program. Okay, develop a program. So whereas if you are using this OOID concept alone, if you are using this class diagram alone, like I said, in this class diagram, already a few input programmings are available. So when we are converting this into a programming language, it is easy for us to develop a program. Okay, so unlike relational database management system, it gives us access to enable or it already gives us a half code by giving the class name attribute operation in the particular places alone, respective places. So the main reason for using the OOID concept in GIS is to enable it with a programming concept. Okay. So in previous webinar sessions, we would have seen several GIS tools, right? So in open source software, closed source software. So in open source software, anybody can develop a code or anybody can develop the program. But whereas in a closed source software or in a proprietary software, only the developer has the access to the codes, right? So in that cases, when we are using this kind of OOAD techniques, when we are using the data through class diagrams, then it is easy for the developer to enable the code.
Nice.
That is the main usage of using OOAD concept in GIS. That's a very good outcome. I hope it is clarified now. Is it clear for you? Okay, super. Yeah. Any other doubts, students? This class is more of a DBMS class as well as this class, I hope. Any other doubts you have? Students, any other doubts? Do you want to revise? Or do you want any slides to check up on any doubts you have? Is all the slides clear for you guys? If there is no other doubt, we can proceed further. Okay, so we will be proceeding further. Hope you guys don't have any other doubts. And,
Yes, ma'am. Hello. Okay. So now, students, you can type in your answers in the chat box. Students, you can type in your answers in the chat box. I would like to see everyone participating in this. Students, you can type in your answers. Okay. So far, 11 replies I've got. Good. Excellent. Leelavati, Karthikeyan, Akash, Soumya, Satya, Selvi, Suvarna, Anjali, Anushka, Sujita Shri, Shanmuga Priya, Ajit Kumar, Suman Sai, Deepa, Aishwarya NS, Uma Devi. Good. Very good responses. Super students. Excellent. Vinusha, Hi Supreet, Manasa, Shivashankar, Harihara Karthik, Jagan, Aditya, Kirti, Rishika, Prema, Sai Shiva, Maharunisha, Ritika, Mulibabu, Ajit Kumar again, Abdul Rahman. Okay. So there are various types, ranges of answers. 8, 11, 25, 27, 13. Good. Super. Maheshwari. Only 6 triangles are available. Okay, that is also an answer. Good. Good. Always don't type the obvious answers. They will try to deviate you to the wrong answer. Okay, so any other answers? Excellent participation, guys. Super. Any other answers? Okay. Good. Okay, so then we will move on to the answer. Okay, so we will be moving on to the answer. So the correct answer was given by Sai Supreet and Venkata Shivashankar. The answer is 24 triangles. Okay, and these are the various 24 triangles available. These slides will be available in your college website also, don't worry. Okay, so with this, we have completed the second phase of your first webinar series in the second unit. So we will be moving on to the next topic, which is ER diagram. Okay, so this is your ER diagrams. Moving on to the ER diagram. I don't think it is possible to complete the entire ER diagram today, so we will have an introduction about what is an ER diagram alone. Okay. Okay, so we will move on to the next topic, ER diagrams. So this is a very simple part. We are going to just design the various functions or various attributes available in a model in a diagrammatic representation. Okay, so ER diagram is nothing but entity relationship model. Okay, so ERD is entity relationship diagram. It is based on the notations of a real world entities and relationship among them. So all the entities in the real world and the relationship between them are given as an ER diagram. Okay. So there are several categories available in the ER diagram. We will see what are they. Okay. So before that, while formulating a real world scenario, okay, while formulating a real world scenario into a database model, the ER model creates an entity set, a relationship set, and in general attributes and constraints. These are the things which has been created while we are formulating a real world scenario. Okay, when we are converting a real world, or in simple words, when we are converting an image into a database. Okay, so what all is being created? An ER model creates an entity set, relationship set, general attributes, and then the constraints. Constraints are the conditions for which the data has to be retrieved. Okay. Excuse me. So ER model is best used for the conceptual design of a database actually. Okay. So in general, ER model is based upon entities and their attributes. Okay. Or relationship among entities. It is based upon entities and their attributes and then relationships among those entities itself. So in next class, I will give you a diagrammatic representation how an ER diagram actually works. Or okay, I'll tell you in the next class itself with a diagrammatic representation. Let's assume, for example, we are having two entities. One is a department and another one is a student. Okay, so here department is having some attributes and the students are having some attributes. The relationship between the student and the department is being mentioned in the ER diagram. Okay, I repeat again. So let's assume there is a department entity and another entity called as student entity. Okay, so the relationship between the student entity and the department entity is also being projected in this ER diagram. To be particular, it is being shown in a diamond shaped operation. Okay, the entities are represented with rectangles. Okay, the attributes are represented with ellipse shapes, and the relationship between both the entities is being given in a diamond shaped or in a tilted square shaped form. Okay. So what is actually an entity? This is diagrammatic. Okay, I'll tell you what is an entity. So entity is nothing but an entity in an ER model is a real world entity having properties called as attributes. Okay, so every attribute is defined by its set of values called domain. Okay, I repeat again, an entity is actually an ER model which is a real world entity having its own properties which is called as attributes. Okay, so likewise every attribute is being defined with a set of values. That values is said to be known as domain. Okay, like for example, in a school database. Okay, in a school student database, a student is considered as an entity. Okay, in a school database, a student is considered as an entity. So student has various attributes, like just now we have seen, right? What is the name, student's name, student's age, student's gender, student's class, etc. So those are the entity of a particular student. Okay. Now this is an entity. So what is a relationship? The logical association among those entities is called as relationship. Okay. So relationships are mapped with entities in various ways, like mapping. What to say? If we are having 2 or 3 more entities, the combined entity relationship is being given separately in this field called as relationship. Okay. Or like for example, if there are 2 entities, this relationship actually gives the number of associations between those 2 entities. So that is commonly called as relationships. Okay. So in this, they will be using a particular term, term called as mapping cardinality. Okay. Mapping cardinality is nothing but the various term given for the relationship between the entities. So mapping cardinality, there are actually 4 types: one to one, one to many, many to one, many to many. Simple. Okay. So these are the relationship between the entities in an ER diagram. Okay. I'll repeat. The various mapping cardinalities are one to one, one to many, many to one, many to many. So these are the various mapping cardinalities available in the attributes. Sorry, the relationships. Okay. And there are also the next component is attribute actually. So attribute is nothing but so far we have seen what is an entity, what is a relationship, and the last one is attributes. Okay. So attributes are nothing but entities which are represented by means of their properties. Okay. So entities which are represented by their properties. Those properties are said to be called as attributes. Okay. The properties that define the entities. Okay. The properties. So these are the entities. Okay. Okay. So the properties that defines or that represent the entity is said to be known as the attributes. Okay. All attributes have some value. Okay. Like for example, the student entity, just now we have discussed, may have the name, class, gender, and age as attributes. Okay. There are some advantages for these attributes, and there are some types of attributes also. Types in the sense, the first one is simple attribute. Okay. An attribute where the values are very atomic, which cannot be divided further. It is a minute detail given for that attribute. Okay. For example, a student's phone number. If a student phone number is 10-digit number, then it is a 10-digit number only. It cannot be subdivided. Correct. So the student phone number cannot be reduced or it cannot be divided. So those kind of attribute is called as a simple attribute, which has some atomic values. Okay, which cannot be decomposed further. Okay. And the next one is composite attributes. Actually, there are totally 5 kinds of attributes available: simple attribute, composite attribute, derived attribute, and then single value attribute, and then multi-value attribute. Okay. So the various concepts of attributes, the disadvantages and advantages, that we will see it in the next class. Okay. So this is what we have seen so far. Okay. So now we will have a small question and answer session. Okay. To wind up today's class, and I will be asking few questions, and you have to answer those questions in the chat boxes. Okay. So the first question for you guys. Okay, students, are you ready? Okay. Yes. So the question for you guys right now is, what are the various normalization forms you know in DBMS? What are the various types of normalization forms you know in DBMS? Please type in those answers in the chat box. What are the various types of normalization formats you know in DBMS? We have just now discussed, right? So you can type those answers itself. Good, good. Abdul Rahman. Try to type all the answers and then press enter. Or you can type one answer and press comma also. Anjali, Neelavati, Satya, Sujita Shri, Selvi, Manasa, good. Rishika, Umadevi, Shenbaga Priya, Venkata Shivashankar, Ritika, good. These are the most active participants in every session's class. Actually, I have noticed. Good. Suman Sai, Soumya, good. So 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, and then BCNF, correct? 4NF, 5NF, 6NF. There are actually several normalization forms available, but these 8 normalization forms are the one which we are concentrating more on. So 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, 4NF, 5NF, 6NF, BCNF, and the one thing we see in this is UNF, unnormalized form, correct? Good, good. That is a very good answer. So we will move on to the next question. So the next question will be, what are the various types of joints? I repeat, what are the various types of joints? You can type in your answers in your chat box. What are the various types and subtypes of joints? Various types and subtypes of joints. You can retype the answers also. Excellent, excellent. Inner joint, outer joint, left inner joint, left outer joint and right outer joint. Very good students. Excellent. Great. Okay. So we will move on to the very good answers, students. Really appreciate it. And we'll move on to the next question now. What are the various elements of object-oriented model that you remember? Just now we have discussed this. What are the various elements of object-oriented data model? What are the various elements of object-oriented data model? Good answers. So with this, we will wind up this session. And I hope you guys have understood what is a DBMS and what are the components of a DBMS. And the remaining part of an ER diagram, we will see it in the next class. Okay. Thank you, students. Thank you for the participation. You can leave the session right now.